Again, Jesus said to his disciples, "When you fast, do not look somber or disfigure your face, as the hypocrites do, for they disfigure their faces to show men that they are fasting." I think apparently they would spread ashes on their faces and they would go around weeping and wailing. Yeah, this is what I have to deal with. This is what I have to, oh no. This is what I have to deal with. What did Mordecai do when he was fasting over the imminent destruction of his people? Let's take a look here. Yeah. In Esther chapter 4, starting in verse 1, this is after the decree has been given that all the Jews throughout the Persian Empire are to be destroyed on a certain day. At the beginning of Esther 4, and Mordecai learned of all that had been done. He tore his clothes, put on sackcloth and ashes, and went out into the city, wailing loudly and bitterly. We've talked before about how in their day, in their culture, public displays of emotion, even among men, was not bad. Okay, it's like we had developed a mindset of being very stoic in our attitudes, especially for men. You're not supposed to show emotion. But they did not have such a view back then. If you were mourning, if you were upset about something, you were supposed to show it. It was supposed to be a public display of your emotional distress. And here Jesus is saying, don't do that. Don't put sackcloth or ashes on your face to show that you're fasting. And again, this is an attitude issue. These men did this precisely because they wanted attention from people. I tell you the truth, they have received the reward in full. They've already gotten everything they wanted. They're not going to get any more. But when you fast, put oil on your head and wash your face, so smell good and look good. Hide the fact that you're fasting. So it will not be obvious to men that you are fasting, but only to your Father, who is unseen. And your Father, who sees what is done in secret, will reward you. Again, this is an issue of attitude. Don't do it for the sake of getting praise and attention from other people. Do it for the sake of honoring and being righteous in the Father's sight. Again, Jesus said to his disciples, "Do not store up for yourselves treasures on earth, where moth and rust destroy, and where thieves break in and steal. But store up for yourselves treasures in heaven, where moth and rust do not destroy, and thieves do not break in and steal. For where your treasure is, there your heart will be also." The treasure comes first. Whatever you consider to be your treasure, that's what your mind and your heart, your thoughts and your emotion, your desires, your attitudes are going to be. The eye is the lamp of the body. If your eyes are good, your whole body will be full of light. But if your eyes are bad, your whole body will be full of darkness. That's the old evil eye concept. Are you looking at things with an evil eye? Are you looking at things with the goal of getting things for yourself and making yourself wealthy and rich? If then the light within you is darkness, how great is that darkness? No one can serve two masters. Either he will hate the one and love the other, or he will be devoted to the one and despise the other. You cannot serve both God and money. Therefore, I tell you, do not worry about your life, about what you will eat or drink, or about your body, what you will wear. Jesus never owned anything in his adult life except for maybe the tunic he wore. Everything he had as an adult, at least, he borrowed or was given to him by somebody else. Is not life more important than food, and the body more important than clothes? Look at the birds of the air. They do not sow or reap or store away in barns, and yet your heavenly Father feeds them. Are you not much more valuable than they? Who of you, by worrying, can add a single hour to his life? This is a lesser to greater, greater to lesser argument. This is a classic Jewish style argument. If God has already done something great for you, then will he not also do something lesser for you? If he's already made your body, will he not also take care of your body? Making the body is harder than taking care of the body. So if God has already done the greater, harder thing, will he not also do the lesser thing? And on the other hand, if God bothers to do the lesser thing, the more unnecessary or more technical, minute thing, will he not also do the greater thing? That's kind of how that's one of their ways of reasoning. And that kind of reflects, again, that back and forth parallel style of thinking, which was so ubiquitous in their culture. Again, we don't have that kind of we just don't have that kind of logic in our way of thinking. Our logic, critical thinking systems are more linear in nature. Theirs are more circular. And you see it here again with that greater to lesser or lesser to greater argumentation, which they used. Jesus is not alone in speaking like this. This was a very common rabbinical style of teaching. If God did the greater thing, will he not do the lesser thing? On the other hand, if God bothers to do the lesser thing, will he not also then do the greater thing? See how that works? And why do you worry about clothes? See how the lilies of the field grow? They do not labor or spin. Yet I tell you that not even Solomon in all his splendor was dressed like one of these. If that is how God clothes the grass of the field, this is a lesser to greater argument, which is here today and tomorrow is thrown into the fire, will he not much more clothe you? Oh, you little faith, that's a lesser to greater argument. If God clothes the leaves of the field, which are here today and gone, literally here today and gone tomorrow. Now, I know that elsewhere in the scriptures, people themselves are compared to being grass, lilies of the field, here today and gone tomorrow, but the lilies are literally here today and gone tomorrow. And if God takes the time to clothe them, will he not clothe you? That's a lesser to greater argument. So do not worry, saying, what shall we eat, or what shall we drink, or what shall we wear? For the pagans run after all these things, and your heavenly Father knows that you need them. But seek first his kingdom and his righteousness, and all these things will be given to you as well. That goes back to the whole, blessed are those who hunger and thirst for righteousness, for they will be filled. Blessed are those who are poor in spirit, for theirs is the kingdom of heaven. Therefore do not worry about tomorrow, for tomorrow will worry about itself. Each day has enough trouble of its own. I love the way the King James Version writes it. It's not my favorite line in the entire King James Bible. Sufficient unto the day is the evil thereof. Like that is great. I don't know what it means. It means basically each day will have trouble of its own. But sufficient unto the day is the evil thereof. That's the King James way of saying that. And I just love that. That is my favorite King James verse in the entire Bible. Do not judge, or you too will be judged. Now, this is not saying that we should never make a discernment of people, their attitudes, their behaviors, their conduct. But he says this, for in the same way you judge others, you will be judged. And by the measure you use, it will be measured to you. That goes back to the whole forgive those who sin against you, or you won't be forgiven. Be merciful. That goes back to blessed are the merciful, so they'll be shown mercy. It doesn't say, he's going to say in just a few verses to make discernments and judgments of people. It's not saying don't ever judge. It's saying that be careful how you judge. Because whatever standard of judgment you use will be used against you. So make sure that you use God's standard of judgment and be merciful the way that you've been shown mercy. Why do you look at the speck of sawdust in your brother's eye and pay no attention to the plank in your own eye? We have a lot of people who do that today. Our entire political discourse is doing this today, blaming everybody else. And sure, everybody is to blame, okay? But we all are to blame. But we love talking about how the other person has contributed to the problem. And we're usually accurate about that, by the way. I mean, we're so messed up that like when we criticize each other for our problems, honestly, we're probably being accurate, okay? We could make all kinds of criticisms of the current president about some of his policies which have wrecked the country, and we'd be accurate to do so. But you've got to be honest about your own part in the disaster, and we have people who are not being that. And that's been that way for a while. I don't know if it was always that way. I think there was always an element of that. I mean, I was born in 1980, 1, so my awareness really only goes back to the early 80s and following. I think it's gotten worse. I think in the second half of my life so far, it has gotten significantly worse. I don't know if we were ever totally free from that, because we are human beings after all. But I do believe that it has gotten worse in the 21st century than it was before. How can you say to your brother, "Let me take the speck out of your eye," when all the time there is a plank in your own eye? You hypocrite! First take the plank out of your own eye, and then you will see clearly to remove the speck from your brother's eye. Again Jesus said to his disciples, "Do not give dogs what is sacred. Do not throw your pearls to pigs. If you do, they may trample them under their feet and then turn and tear you to pieces." Now, that is a case of judgment. You actually will have, in order to determine who's a dog and who's a pig, you will have to make the judgment. You'll have to use your discernment, the wisdom that God has given you, the wisdom that you relied on God to provide you with to make these judgments. So he's not saying don't ever judge. There right there is an instance of you having to make a judgment. Basically, he's saying, okay, so dogs were unclean, pigs were unclean. Ancient Jews did not like dogs. They did not keep them as pets. They were wild pack animals. They were dangerous. They were unclean. They were outside the cities. They were devourers. Okay, like they were not. They didn't keep dogs as pets in this region of the world at that time. And pigs were unclean animals. In fact, they were probably the most unclean of all animals. The Jews hated pigs. They still do. Okay, so you don't keep pigs. Okay, and they didn't keep pigs. Okay, only Gentiles would have pigs. So he's basically saying anybody who's outside, like, if you've got someone who is going to be a dog, someone who's going to be a pig, okay, someone who is going to not appreciate what you're trying to give it. You've got what is sacred is Jesus' teachings. Okay, don't give dogs what is sacred. All right, the sacredness here is Jesus' teachings. Don't throw your pearls, it's something valuable, to pigs, because the pigs won't appreciate it, and then they'll stomp on them and attack you because you didn't give them food. All right, some people are going to be like that, and that is a case of discernment. There are going to be people, when you encounter them in life, who are not going to listen to the gospel, who are not going to be interested in listening to the gospel, and if anything, are going to be hostile to it. And by witnessing to them, you're going to provoke a hostile reaction, like being in a pig pen and giving them something other than food, and they crush that, and then they turn and attack you. And that requires discernment. That requires judgment. You have to decide whether someone is in that category of a hostile enemy that will not appreciate what you're trying to give it and will turn and attack you for it. In such cases, just leave them alone. Now, maybe somebody else at some point in time later on can get through to them. That could be that person won't always be in that condition. But there might be times when you come across someone who, for whatever the reason, at the stage of life they're in, when you meet them, they're a dog, they're a pig, and they're just not going to listen to what you have to say. And if you try to give them your treasures, they're going to attack you for it. And in that case, just leave them alone. I mean, Jesus himself says, don't give it to them. If they're going to trample underfoot and attack you, just leave them alone.